Well, anyway, thank you so much for raising your hand to do the first author spotlight. Since we've rolled this out, I really appreciate that you wanted to participate with us today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, so first things first, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Melanie Sue Bowles, and I am the author of Liberty Biscuit. It's a middle grade novel, but I was born and raised in Michigan, and in my early 20s, I moved to Florida, and I earned my living as a firefighter, medic, and I was the first female to make it through the rigorous fire academy. This was way back in the dark ages. There are hundreds of women now in the fire service, but
I know it's rough though. That's impressive.
yeah, it was. I was very proud of myself. It was a great career. Great. I'm retired now, but it's also a great place to meet men. That female to male ratio. So I met my husband at the fire department, and in an effort to kind of simplify our lives, it's a stressful job, and in an effort to simplify our lives, we decided to buy a place out in the country, and we were surrounded by horses, and I was not a horse person. I'd never had a horse. I never wanted a horse, but they were everywhere, and I became very intrigued, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I decided to get a horse, and my husband at first was, you don't know anything about horses. Why do you want a horse? And I can't even describe what happened, because in my effort to find a horse, I saw so much mistreatment, and suddenly it shifted. I didn't really care about having a horse to ride. It became more about wanting to give back to horses. And that was kind of the beginning of the sanctuary.
It's interesting that you, in an effort to simplify your life, you started a sanctuary.
Well, yes, that was a lot more peaceful than our jobs in the city. Yeah. We commuted into the city, and so we were out in the country. It was very peaceful, and the horses, of course, are very peaceful, and it just snowballed. We started out on 5 acres with 1 horse in need, and it evolved into a 300-acre facility where we had intervened on behalf of hundreds and hundreds of horses. Our herd once numbered in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
And PBS did a full-length documentary about us, citing our work as a model for other organizations. And we are retired from the fire department now, but we're still running the sanctuary.
That's awesome. That is so I assume then that the sanctuary then became kind of inspiration for you.
Absolutely. Now, I never intended on getting published. That was never in my head. I used to write the stories of the horses that came to us. It was just kind of cathartic for me to chronicle how they came to us, the situations they were in, and how they were healing, and how they became part of the herd. And one day I showed these stories that I'd written to a close friend, and she took the folder home and read them and brought them back. And when she handed them back to me, all she said was, "You need to get these published." And it had never dawned on me to put these into book form. Although I'd always loved to write. I loved to write as a child. I wrote just little stories, and then, of course, as I just said, the stories of the horses. And once she planted that seed in my head, I decided to go for it. I went through all the stories, cleaned them up good, had a few friends read them over and make sure that look for typos and grammatical errors and that kind of thing. Just really clean them up and put them in manuscript form, which at that time I didn't even know how to do. I didn't even know what a proper manuscript looked like. And then I started querying publishers that I felt would be a good match. And again, this was 20 years ago that I wrote my first book. I've got 3 nonfiction books out. And the publishing industry was very, very different then. So the second publisher I queried offered me a contract. And
Nice.
they published my two additional books that I wrote for them.
That's fantastic. So tell me a little bit more about both Liberty Biscuit, and you went into a little bit about the evolution of that and your other novels. So tell me more about kind of the library of books that you've written.
Well, the first 3 books are nonfiction.
Okay. So those came before Liberty Biscuit.
Yes, that was the first book came out 20 years ago.
Okay.
So that was and it's nonfiction. It's all about true stories about the sanctuary. It's about how the sanctuary began, the animals and horses that came to us. We are a horse sanctuary, but we've taken in numerous other types of animals. It's when you open your home to animals, it becomes like a field of dreams. Build it and they will come. So
I've experienced that.
Yeah. But and I also wrote numerous articles for glossy print and online magazines, equestrian magazines. So I've got tons of feature articles out there. But then I took a break for quite a while and didn't really do a lot of writing. But then this story, fictional, kept popping into my head. And that became Liberty Biscuit. And it is fiction and it is for kids, but we're getting wonderful reviews from adults. Adults are loving it. It's kind of lyrical, and it's really appealing to adults. The story takes place on a rural peach farm outside of Savannah, and the protagonist, her name is Kip. She is wise beyond her years. She's quirky and funny and super smart. She loves to read. She knows more about the flora and the fauna than a kid her age ought to, of her area. And it revolves around the fact that she longs for a horse to ease her loneliness, but her father won't let her have one. And she comes upon a bedraggled little donkey with missing an eye, who has a broken ear, and he walks with a limp. She encounters him in the woods of their peach farm. And she lures him home with some biscuits that she's carrying, some peach biscuits. And this little donkey immediately bonds to her, and she is madly in love with him instantly. And her daddy doesn't want her to keep him. He doesn't want to let her keep him. Well, it goes on, but this donkey, we discover a painful past in this family. And this donkey helps Kip's family heal from this painful past. And Kip learns that sometimes magnificent things can happen where you least expect them, where she wanted a glorious horse. And she wound up with this bedraggled little donkey, and she wouldn't trade him for a million glorious horses. So that's kind of the story.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. I have not had the opportunity to read it yet, but now I definitely feel like I need to track down a copy for myself.
I think you'd love it.
Especially, my heart is definitely solidly with the animals. So
yeah,
it sounds right up my alley. As you were taking this, so you had written some nonfiction and had told the stories of the animals that you worked with, but then you took it into that nonfiction realm. Can you take us through what that journey was like, going from kind of real world and then being able to bring more creativity and create a whole new world inspired by your real world experience?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Yeah, it was a completely different experience than writing nonfiction and fiction. The the journey of being able to go where you want to go was very liberating, and it was very fun. Excuse me. And I got addicted to it. At first, it was a bit of a struggle because I was so used to just turning the true stories into my books. And so I did have to rely on my own imagination and my own creativity. And it was fun kind of honing that. It really was. It was, and it was good for me. It was truly good for me. I don't know if I could share a process because it just kind of happened organically, you know, and in some ways, and I think all of us as writers, I think we need to do this. You need to dig into yourself a little bit. You need to dig into the deep corners, the dark corners, and the shadows to pull out a story. So Kip, in some ways, my protagonist in Liberty Biscuit, Kip is kind of me a little bit. So I could pull, for her personality, I could pull a little bit of a lot of, not a little bit, a lot of what's in my own heart.
Do you feel like as you were developing Kip, you know, you had pulled a lot from your own heart, but is Kip an amalgamation of some other folks, you know, or are you getting inspiration that way for her, or do you really solidly feel like you're essentially Kip? Did you get to grow with Kip?
Oh, wow. No one's ever asked me that. Oh, that's so interesting. You know, I think if I'm being completely candid, I would say that Kip is a lot me. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'll have to ponder it a little bit more too.
So I know you had some framework to work off of as far as a little bit of background for the previous things you had written and the sanctuary, but I have to ask, are you a pantser or a plotter?
Oh my goodness.
Or a little bit of both?
No, 100% pantser.
Pantser?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I have some friends that show their process, and they've got a board laid out on the floor of their writing room with sticky notes all over it and graphs and arrows, and that makes my head want to explode. No, I completely wing it. And I also I edit as I go along.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no right way to write. You have to find your excuse me, I'm sorry. You have to find your comfort and accept who you are. Don't try to be like other people. When I first started writing the novel, I would look at some of my author friends and I would say, oh my gosh, they're so successful. I need to do that too. No, you don't. Do what's right for you. Don't compare yourself to others. And really and truly, I think that your creativity is so much better if you just accept who you are. And I'm kind of a fidgety person. It's difficult for me to sit long. So I have to get up a lot, but that helps me concentrate, actually, is to not just put myself in the chair and make myself write. I have to get up and move around. And actually, one of my tricks is if I'm deep in writing and I know my personality, I know I have to get up a lot, I keep a jigsaw puzzle going.
Oh.
So when I'm a little stuck or I'm feeling fidgety, I get up and fuss around and I stand up to do my puzzle. It's not a sit down. It's on a high counter. So I'll stand there and work on the puzzle, and it clears my brain. And then I can come back and sit down and write.
I like that. It's too easy to get a little hung up when you hit that wall and you just stand there and keep beating your head into it. I like the idea of having that little activity to be able to go do and change your setting a bit.
Yes.
So other than, you know, making sure that your process is your process and it feels right for you. What other advice would you give writers who are, aspiring to maybe complete their first novel or find a home for it with an agent?
Well, there's tons of books and websites out there. There's so much information about the craft of writing. I don't think we need to talk about that right here, right now. And I could offer a few motivational cliches like believe in yourself or follow your dreams. And they sound a little benign, but what if, I always tell people, what if you put a twist on those motivational cliches? What if you don't follow your dreams? What if you don't believe in yourself? What are the consequences? Probably nothing catastrophic, but nothing extraordinary either,
Yeah.
So how do we believe in ourselves? How do we counter that negative noise in our head? If you had a close friend, a really, really dear friend who was working on a creative project, and you knew how hard they were working, and you knew everything they were putting into it, and you knew what it meant to them, would you wish them success? Would you wish them their dreams to come true? Of course you would.
Well, yeah.
Do that for yourself. We need to be our own friend, right?
Yeah, it's so often easier to advocate for others than ourselves. You are 100% right there. That is some solid advice for folks to keep in mind. I think more than just writers too. That
For
applies to just
everyone.
about anything.
Absolutely. And that is something, I had something happen to me that could have been very defeating in my writing career, in my early writing life. Could have been very, very defeating. But I decided I was going to develop the skills somehow, some way, to rise above that, to counter the noise, tamp down the negativity, and I was going to be my own friend.
I love that. And I think what I have heard from the story that you shared today, from, starting off as a firefighter, as in a day when it was very unusual for a woman to be a firefighter, and then finding your way into farm sanctuary when you didn't have roots there already. You found your passion in there, and then, trekking through not only the writing process, but then the publishing process, which can be very daunting. I absolutely admire your tenacity and your passion to keep finding the next thing.
Oh, thank you. Well,
It's awesome.
that's what life is to be lived. And if you've got a dream, I think we need to stay curious about life. We need to stay motivated. We need to stay inspired. And, just the other day, I've got a little tomato garden outside and they're blooming now. And I was standing there with my husband, the little yellow blooms. And I said, isn't this astonishing? This little yellow bloom turns into something we can eat. It turns into food. I think we need to maintain that, hold on to that awe of the world around us.
Love that. So, what my next question what is joining the Broadleaf Writers Association? What has that meant for you as a writer?
Oh, well, at first I watched I saw your posts from afar, just because we have a lot of mutual friends. So I did see some posts come through my Facebook feed and everything. And as a non-member, I was really impressed with the way that you and Zach, I'm sorry, both were so invested in your members. And I was just very, very impressed with that. And I decided to join. So I'm a new member, but I love the feeling that you and Zach both present. And I'm very glad to be here. I'm so glad I did join. And I've encouraged a couple other people to join. But I think being a part of a writing community is really important. As writers, it kind of helps you embrace your own process, because you're
Yeah.
kind of all on the same journey separately, but as a community, you get the feedback you need and the motivation and the encouragement.
I'm very new to the organization myself, actually, and that's exactly what attracted me to, is that sense of real community that I found.
Yeah,
And then
I
I always
really
like to
agree.
see if other folks are kind of feeling that, because that helps us build. If you're feeling the community and I'm feeling the community, we are just building on it and making it stronger.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
So what's next for you? Have you got some future books planned?
Well, I wrote, my publisher was interested in a sequel to Liberty Biscuit. That's all written and it's submitted. They haven't gotten back with me yet. The wheels of publishing turn like
Molasses in January.
super slow. So they haven't gotten back with me yet. I don't know if they like it enough that they want to publish it, or hopefully if they don't like it quite enough, they'll offer some editorial feedback so that I can make it what they want, or make it as good or better than Liberty Biscuit. Sequels are tough,
Mhm.
but and I've got numerous people have wanted a fourth book about the sanctuary. I'm kicking around writing that. I kind of needed to step away from the horse stories for a long time. As mentioned, these horses suffered abuse and neglect, and you're dealing with the worst of mankind when you're getting animals away from people who can do that kind of thing to an animal. So it was a little bit exhausting writing those stories, emotional, taxing,
Mhm.
So I did step away from it for quite a while, but I'm kicking around writing a fourth, kind of a full circle conclusion about the Proud Spirit stories.
Nice. Do you have any upcoming events, either book signings or anything to do with the sanctuary coming up?
I've got a book signing at our local library. I live in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. And then I've got a big event where I grew up in Michigan in August. I'm excited about that. You can go home again.
So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to know more about your future events, like book signings and things like that?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Melanie Sue Bowles. And that's where I post most of my authors, all of my author stuff, and stuff about the sanctuary. That particular page on Facebook is just really about the sanctuary and my writing life. It's not political rantings or anything like that. So reach out to me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, but not much.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I have really enjoyed our conversation, and I can't wait to get this out there for more people to be able to see.
Oh, I enjoyed talking with you so much. Thank you.